Is it recording?
We are.
All right. Good evening. It's Monday, December 9th, 7 p.m., and I'd like to call to order the business meeting for the Sunderland Selectboard. First, our introductions. Todd Lawrence on my far left, Marty Nadler to my immediate left, Bruce Madison to my right, and Andrew McKeever to my far right. We have a special guest, Alyssa Johnson from the community visit. What's your title?
I work for the Vermont Council on Rural Development,
Okay.
VCRD, and yes, with the community visit program.
Great. All right, so the first order of business is to approve the minutes of November 25th. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Andrew? Yeah.
I'll second, sure.
Okay. Any changes, adjustments, corrections?
I have two corrections in there that I noticed, just basic ones. The first one in the introduction of board minutes, I didn't know that Marty was here from the last meeting, and then also I had the date wrong for line number 3, approval of minutes. I had October 28th, when it should be November 11th.
Okay.
So those are the two changes I'd like to make and resubmit.
All right, so with those adjustments, if everyone agrees, we accept them, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. They are accepted. As there's no public here, anybody online? All right. So we can move right into Alyssa. We would love to hear all about the community visit.
And you, wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to do kind of a brief overview and then allow any time for questions for you all. I'll pass out my prop. I should have done this ahead of time. But this has a brief overview on the back of the process, which will be helpful when we get there.
Thank you.
So as I said, my name is Alyssa Johnson. I'm the Community Visit Program Manager, and I work for an organization we're called the Vermont Council on Rural Development. We've been around for over 30 years. If you've heard of Paul Costello, many folks know him as part of it, but our organization was actually created by the Federal Farm Bill. That doesn't come with any money or authority, but it lets us have a very unique board structure. So our board of directors is made up of folks from the local level, local representatives, state officials, governor's cabinet, either party, we're a nonpartisan organization, federal officials, local business representatives, and the goal is to really give us an overview of rural issues across the state. We do local and statewide convening, so we're a neutral facilitator of public process. We work both at the individual, single local town level, as well as statewide on different policy councils for the state. Why I'm here today and what you all have expressed interest in is our community visit program. And this is a program to help communities come together and decide on ideas for the future. So I understand it sounds like Brian Lowe, who was our previous executive director, came to visit to talk about it. And you all then submitted what we say a letter of request. So we only work where we're invited. We ask for a formal invitation from the legislative body, so you all as the select board. That then goes to an advisory committee. This is made up of some of those same board members, partners from the state, USDA Rural Development, Preservation Trust, and they help us decide where to work. We like to cover all corners of the state. With thanks to you all, we're working in Lunenburg in Essex County right now, so if we followed that up with you all, we truly are getting like every corner of Vermont. So that advisory committee approved your request, that then went to our full board of directors, and they've approved offering a community visit next year in Sunderland, if amenable to you all. So that brings me here tonight to really talk about what that would look like and what the process is. So with our handy dandy graphic on the back, in general, the community visit process, it's going to be 3 months of big public meetings. but really more like 5 months, because we do kind of a step 0, a planning meeting, and then there's follow-on support after the fact. So first on our list for next year in 2025 is the town of Roxbury in central Vermont. After that, you would be next on the list. Based on that timing then, right around May, we would look to have that first step, that planning committee meeting. The first thing we do is, we don't know anything about a town and what's best for a community. We don't come in with any agenda. Our community visit process is just about inviting as many people from all corners of the community to come out and share what they love about Sunderland, what they might want to change, what ideas they have for the future. But before we can even start that planning committee meeting is something we use. It's a one-time meeting, and it's to help plan that process. So I wouldn't know the first thing about where to begin advertising this event, how to get the word out to folks, what we should be talking about. So at that first meeting, we'd ask for one of you as a representative from the select board. I'd ask, is there a church in the area? Is there a local business community? Who's very long-time families? Who might be newer? Does someone have kids at the school nearby? All of those types of questions, and bring together a representative group. And that would be the group to help us put together the event. We would say, what events are the hot topics in town? I've heard you have a school, maybe something like that, but I have no idea what the topics may be. So we would brainstorm those topics at that meeting. We would think about where to hold it, what all the logistics were, and then how to get the word out, up to and including, will you call your neighbors? Like, we really try every single thing in town. At that point, we also look, one of the 2 things that we ask you all as the select board to help support is a town-wide mailing. So we like to mail something to every single person in town, telling them about this event. And this is all for this big kickoff. So this month 1 is Community Visit Day. It would be the subsequent month likely. So if we planned in May, that would be a June event. And it's both fun, but also business. So the other piece is we do a community meal. It can be anything. It can be pizza. It can be potluck, whatever it may be. But to help encourage everyone to come out, big meal, maybe some live music. But before and after that, we have forum conversations. So when I said we asked, like, what should we even talk about? We would have sets of forums where people can come in and share. We moderate them, so you all get to not be in the front of the room for once and just sit in the audience and raise your hand if you have an idea. We also invite a visiting team of folks from across the state. So we reach out to your Regional Planning Commission, Regional Development Corporation, likely folks from our board of directors, based on whatever those topics are. And we invite those folks, and then we tell them, this is not a time for you to make speeches. You will also sit quietly in the back and speak only when you're called upon by us, the facilitators. But what it does do is help those folks get to know your community, to hear firsthand from all of the folks who come out about what the issues are. So that first step is all just about getting as much input as we can. We have note takers who sit in the room, and I said my props. At the end of these things, we do a whole big community visit report. It usually runs like 10 to 12 pages of notes of just every single comment every person in those forums made. We'll try and do a forum with the school, just getting as much input as we can. We come back a month later, and you can imagine if we have, a forum on the school and a forum on transportation and education, there might be overlap. And so the next step is really going from all of the possible ideas of what folks can do. At that first meeting, we're asking 3 big questions. What do you like? What's working well? What's hard or challenging? And what are your ideas? A goal of this process is also to invite new people in to contribute to the town. If we know anything about Vermont communities all over the state, things happen in towns because people who live there care about them and want to make them happen. It's not any solution coming from anyone from away. It's about the people who live there saying, I want to see this in my town, and making it happen. So we're laying the groundwork for that. And at the next meeting, we come back and we put all the ideas on the wall. Again, this is nothing we created. This is us saying, okay, I read through 12 pages of notes, and these are all the different things we could do. And it ranges. In Lunenburg, they've got a group looking at outdoor recreation, historic buildings, community connection, infrastructure, roads, like whatever comes out of the conversation. But at that second meeting, we're really looking at prioritization, saying out of all of the things you could do, what are the ones that are most important right now for the future of your community? What are the ones you have control over? That you would raise your hand and say, I'm willing to help move this forward. We literally do dot voting on the wall. We always encourage the kids, because all ages can vote, so I like really make the pitch, like, get your 12-year-olds there, you too can vote in the priorities. So that's that, but at the end of that meeting, we come out with probably 2 or 3 priorities and turn around and say, all right, if you're interested in making a store happen in your town, I want your name on this list to sign up. And then we come back a month later and really make a plan to help make that happen. So we don't want to just say, these are the priorities for the future of your town, and then we want to really create a roadmap so that the people who are interested in having things happen have the advice, expertise, and resources to move them forward. So we also, you see that little yellow box again, invite back a resource team, friends and partners, again, maybe some of those folks from that first meeting who were really listening, now say, hey, my organization can help, or I'm really interested in what you're doing, and this is how we can be a part of it. So they're to think with that group about, okay, you're really interested in this project, how do you actually make that happen? What's that next step? We write this all up in a nice report that you then have. We say one of the best things is after the fact going forward, if you're doing anything, it's really nice to be able to say, we did a comprehensive community process. This is one of the top 2 priorities. You know, we're now pursuing a grant. We're doing whatever other project to have this, and just say, attached, there's a 200 pages that VCRD wrote up of all the input we heard from our communities. And we stay your, friends and partners forever, we say, so we're there to help do whatever we can to kind of help move these things forward. So that's a lot of me talking. That's kind of the big overview of the process. I'm happy to share more details or talk more about it, but that's kind of the overall framework. And I said before, the 2 pieces we would ask for support from you all. We pay for all the staffing, we get grants to support our organization, is that townwide mailing and that dinner for that first community event are the 2 pieces we ask for select board support.
Sounds great to me. And that first dinner, you said that could be potluck or it could be anything we want, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's, again, that planning committee meeting, part of the reason we do it with local folks is to really have the conversation of what works. In one community, it was like the church did a supper every month, so they had people who were just ready to go. In one town, it was the school food service. It's like whatever is a good fit for your community. So yes, that would be a detail we would work out at that meeting.
Great. Any questions?
No.
Yeah, we had, your overview fits what my vision was of this, and it sounds great to me. And we do have an issue in our town of everyone comes home from work and you don't see them. So, and to get the word out to everybody, a blanket mailing is a great idea, because it's hard to reach everybody, but we do have front page forum that we can use, and we could advertise in like the Banner or the Manchester Journal, and but it sounds like a really good thing for our community, just to get their ideas. And
I have a question. With small towns, have you actually done this with very small towns that doesn't have any stores or really businesses, and there's not pretty much houses, and there's an old church and we have a school, and that's pretty much it?
Yeah, great question. Well, Lunenburg's an interesting, I said, where we're working now in the Northeast Kingdom. I think they have 1 store. I think that's about it. 1 church that's still hanging on, and a school. So to answer, yes, we've worked actually quite a lot in the Northeast Kingdom with some pretty small towns. Worked in Westmore this summer. There are 1,500 in the summer. It's where Lake Willoughby is. 300 year round. They've got one, again, town clerk's office, general store. We worked in Bridport over in Addison County. They've got, again, church, clerk's office, craft store. That was about the extent of it, then ag supply. But yes, we've done this in some of the bigger towns, but also a lot of the small. Candidly, I think it works better in small towns. Not that I really should say that, but in part because we often get 100 to 200 people to come out for that first meeting. In a town of 1,000, that's like 10% of your population, you know, and so I think it really creates a lot of buy-in for people. And what people pick is often, they know where they live, they know what they do or don't have. So I think with the exception of the 5th graders, who usually tell me that they would like a Target, a Walmart, a Chick-fil-A, a toy store, a candy store, they're not always realistic. But in general, folks say, what are the things that we want in our community? And we know what our community is like and what we think it can support.
Do you find with like the small towns, after that initial meeting, there's still enthusiasm for like those, the breakout committees and stuff afterwards?
Totally. I think that's a little more detail on kind of the process. We do work to create local chair people, so part of the conversation is whoever signs up at that meeting and shows up at the next one, we would talk with, you know, maybe one of you, a local point of contact, and say, all right, who's someone who can, we provide the structure and the meetings during the process, but after that, keep the group moving forward. And we're also realistic about the number we recommend per size. So we worked in St. Johnsbury, we did 5. It's a community of like 7,000 people. So it was 5 priorities. In a town this size, I would recommend 2 or 3, something where you're gonna get folks to continue to show up. And I think also the fact that it's decided by this democratic vote making, again, we're not pushing something that people aren't interested in. The things that rise to the top of the list are the things that the most people are interested in. So I think that inherently builds some support and momentum.
And if some of those priorities would cost the town money, does your group help budgeting and grant writing or just facilitating getting grants to fulfill some of these priorities?
Good question. Both and all of the above. I should clarify too, nothing in this process commits town money or does anything with your budget. We know you all are the select board. Anything would have to come back to you all. We do often help with grants. In some cases that is direct grant writing. More often it's usually partnering with someone else who can write. There is other groups in the state who can help with grant writing, but we do a lot of that kind of matchmaking and connecting of, I think we worked up in Franklin County, and they had a group looking at childcare. They had actually elderly housing and wanted to see about that. And so there was, again, a staff member for their regional planning commission, and now they're doing a feasibility study. That again was not town funded, there was a separate grant. But they were able to say, oh, this just came forward, you know, as part of this process. I think their select board sent a letter of support, but then they got the grant funding for that separate entity.
Excellent. Sounds really good. So if May is our date for the planning meeting, when do we set an actual date?
Great question. We will set, our practice has been all 3 of those dates at that May planning meeting. So one of the requests to those who attend is I say, bring your calendar. We like to make sure it's not a parent-teacher conference night or the big town barbecue, whatever the important events are. So we would go ahead and set those again in person at that next meeting.
I guess I have one other, just the general process, but since you guys have been doing this for a number of years, what do you think the outcome, I don't know, percentage-wise of like the action, taking the ideas and making them like a reality for these smaller towns and all the towns, is it like a pretty good percentage? Like, you know, that there's some kind of actionable items that the towns can actually follow up with after, or?
Yeah, I think honestly quite high often, and I think what we've actually seen more is it's very high, it's often sometimes in a longer time horizon. So, you know, Sometimes there's something right away in next year or two, but what we're seeing now is, I'm laughing, this is a 2013 Manchester Community Visit Report. That 10-year, that 5 to 10-year timeline is often the sweet spot. It often takes some of that behind the scenes work to move something forward, but I mean, Montgomery is an example we use all the time. Again, in the kingdom, about 1,100 people. They decided, it's a fun town, they have like an all-town adult prom, like that's the type of, at that second meeting where everyone votes, they said, okay, we're a really fun town, and we do all these things, but we also would love to have more businesses in our downtown, and would love to help support the local B&Bs that are struggling, and ended up prioritizing wastewater. And so we're now going on, 7 years later, and they've been approved for millions of dollars of wastewater funding to actually do a whole system in their downtown. And so that's one that was a longer time horizon. Wallingford is in your neck of the woods. Evidently Wallingford Days, you all would know better than me, was a big thing, and it had gone north. And at this community visit, all anyone said at that first meeting was, do you remember Wallingford Days? And they brought it back. And that was not a 10-year timeline, that was pretty quick. I think candidly, sometimes there's multiple priorities and not all of them move forward, but I think we usually see at least one, if not more, moving forward. The other thing is we normally come in with, 15 to 20 ideas, kind of those big buckets. And like I said, we prioritize down to 2 or 3. Sometimes you get a group that says, this idea was not the top one, but we think it's really awesome and we're just gonna do it. So that's another, in Craftsbury, wasn't a priority, but a group just said, we need a childcare center, we have kids, we're gonna go do it. And, a group of folks did that. So that wasn't even one of those top line priorities, and they still moved it forward.
How did they staff that childcare facility? Or did they actually build a?
Yeah, it's called Craftsbury Saplings, and they actually just got a grant to expand. So I don't know their details in terms of if it's a nonprofit or a co-op or whatnot, but they did create one.
Neat. It's always needed everywhere.
Yeah, so in Franklin, it was it came up, and I mean, if you've heard, state level, it's a workforce need and priority. So they were able to very much tap into, our local community has said this is a need, it's a state need, and now how do we actually make this happen? Where's a building that will work?
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Alyssa, can you give us a basic sense of how much we should budget for the mailing and the town dinner? I mean, I realize the town dinner could be, anything. Could be
Yeah.
a lot of pizzas.
Do you want steak? No.
But I guess I just wondered, is there a rough ballpark number? The mailing is, I suppose, the one that I'm most curious about. And I think that's also one of the most important parts of it, because, we don't, I think getting the word out, as Dixie said, can be challenging. Particularly because I think that this would be an opportunity to get some of the people who tend not to show up for select board meetings or kind of, a little bit of distance from town government and all that, be maybe more engaged and involved. And so I think the mailing part of it is really a critical piece. I mean, in towns like ours, we're roughly 1,000 people. I mean, is there any kind of estimate that you could offer us of what that would cost?
Certainly around $600 to $800, I think.
For the
That
mailing?
sounds about right. I heard $600 to $800.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the household, essentially how many stamps do you need. I will say in Lunenburg right now, they sent it every door direct, which I do believe was cheaper than doing a first-class postage. I don't know if you have your own post office, if you're able to do that. One of the people we always invite, I don't know if your town clerk is here, but that's often my first call to say, you're someone in town who both knows everyone and often knows things about mailing. So we defer to kind of local expertise, but yeah, I would say, at least probably postage for the number of households you have. And then, as I said, the dinner can really be a range. It's candidly what you all at the board are comfortable with. I think if you're willing to budget something, even if you would opt to go for like a potluck, we found the most success in the communities where maybe you can get 1 or 2 lasagnas. So you know there's going to be some food, and if someone wants to arrange dessert or something like that, but it often helps to have that just as a single option. So. Yeah, it really has to do with towns, but given that you're 1,000, I would say under $1,000 for the mailing, and again, kind of what you're comfortable with for the dinner. Again, we would say probably in a town of 1,000 to plan for 100 folks at the dinner. So whatever option to feed you all.
That sounds good. So you said that we have, at the planning meeting, we will set the dates for the following meetings. How about the date for the planning meeting?
Great question. That's the one that's a little in between. I guess a piece I would ask is probably, and I said that meeting will be in May, I would probably be back in touch with you all as we work over around March or April to start having a conversation about who to call, which of you would want to be the select board rep, and then it does take a fair amount of time because my number shows up as Bradford, Vermont, so it's not out of state, but sometimes it takes a few rings to get folks to pick up and kind of do the big phone tree of setting that meeting date. But I mean, this is a wonderful room you could host it here, assuming this would be something I can book through you all or the clerk or whoever.
Great.
As a space.
Andrew has been our kind of coordinator for this and has followed it. I don't know if you want to continue on with that, so that
Yeah,
All right.
Alyssa will have a name anyway.
I should say Andrew is among my most diligent town contacts on a statewide basis, always checking in to make sure that you all are still on the list and moving forward, so it's very appreciated.
He's been great.
Well, I think this is a really opportune moment for something like this for our community. I mean, we recently crossed the 1,000 population threshold at the 2020 census for the first time ever in the town's history. And we have a lot of new neighbors who moved in, you know, some of them COVID related, others not. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to get to meet them and for them to meet people who lived here for longer and see what, you know, what new energy they bring.
I think we're finding that in a lot of towns, candidly, either there's folks who moved in who didn't know, or we used to have this great weekly meal thing, and then we stopped it, and just kind of no one restarted it again. So it's something we're seeing, again, really all over the state.
That sounds great. Any other comments or questions?
Just one more, I'm just thinking of things, how about, I mean, I think in terms of for the town, there's, other than the cost of the meal and the mailings, there's not much to lose, but I think it's a great idea even just to get people together and talk about all the issues and their ideas. Just curious, any like negative pushback that have you heard? Like for like town functions and the people going, has there been any like negativity, like, or anything like that from it? I'm just curious
Totally.
of what to expect, you know?
Yeah, no, good question. I think, in general, if you heard, the way we try and structure in a way that will give space for people to share their concern, but also is forward-looking. So at that first meeting, I think being able to say what's working really well, to have time on the agenda for what's not working well. You know, my favorite line, the room will go quiet. So everything's perfect here. Nothing you would change, and inevitably, you know, a couple hands will jump up. And so, again, it gives that space, but we're trying to have the bulk of that space be about forward-looking ideas. And I would say the same thing translates to that prioritization process. We're pretty intentional to frame, this is not to say which of the 15 to 20 ideas you think is the worst and you would never want to participate in. It's to say which is your favorite and which do you want to sign up for. So I think to the extent we can, I think part of the value we offer is that we also are a neutral nonprofit facilitator. We've done this in 80 towns, and so it also gives you all as the select board some space and distance. Not saying you are, in some towns there's real perceptions around who's doing what and who's driving what, so they can call me. I put my email and my phone number on everything, so if there are folks in town who have questions, we're also available. And it really is a community process. Again, we ask for the invitation from you all, but then we're really working on behalf of the whole community. We have no stake in what's prioritized or not. It's really about kind of the will of the folks who show up in the room.
That's great.
So you must have people that say that they've been here for 80 years and it's been the same, and if you don't like it, move out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's okay, and to be clear, I think that's important and valuable, and we capture all of that. I mean,
yeah.
again, that's all part of the process, we want to hear all of that. And if someone doesn't want to participate or doesn't approve the priorities, that's okay too. Our goal is to say, is there a piece? And sometimes what you hear in that is, I've lived in town 80 years, and these were my favorite things that have gone away. And sometimes we're able to say, that might come up in an idea, to say, there was
Yeah,
something else, and is there a way for that to come back?
I don't think there's been anything that's gone away because it's been pretty much the same.
And maybe it's keeping it. I mean, Westmore, the example I used, with Lake Willoughby, their takeaway was to create a local recreation access management plan. Because they said, there's too many people. There's too many cars parked all over the road, we can't handle it. And their piece really was about, how do we locally make a plan to make sure these resources stay here? Because they're another community that hasn't changed. It's what a lot of people come and really value about that community. And so,
It's a clear lake and very steep areas with not much room,
yeah,
and a lot of people pour in the summertime.
exactly that. So that,
We
again, kind of came through loud and clear of what the community wanted. What the community wanted was that to stay the same and to be that way, so that their kids could enjoy it.
80-some% of Sunderland is natural forest. Not much. We have a few roads and, there's not much here. Everybody goes to other towns.
Yeah, we have a couple businesses, but, yeah, this will be great, I think, for the town, because we've been trying to figure out ways to bring everyone together, and I think it sounds like a terrific way to do it.
Happy to. And that's the last thing I should say in terms of the outreach and whatnot. We try and help. We say we can make a flyer and make a website, and we count on the local connections to get the word out, because again, usually they pick up when I call, but it's much more compelling coming from a neighbor. But this is my full-time job, so in terms of making calls to, the newspapers and setting that type of thing up, again, that's a piece we can add, so that you all have day jobs or things to do. It's a piece we can bring.
Sounds great.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I can leave, I have these reports, we have more than we know what to do with, so I'll leave you a small stack to peruse at your leisure, if anyone wants. Any other questions I can
So
answer?
what are the ones you're leaving, the ones you have
Let's see,
done?
I've got Bennington, there's some Putney, this was more recent, I was part of this one, Wallingford, Manchester, but just examples, if you
Yeah.
want to see what other towns in the
Perfect.
region-ish
That's great.
have done and we're interested in.
Well, thank you very much, really
Thank you. And it
appreciate
sounds
it.
like, so Andrew's the contact, so I'll stay in touch in terms of getting that planning committee together. You all share an email, it's about select board.
Select board at,
So when we have that date, I will just send you all notes so that you
Great.
know, and if you're getting inquiries of, who's this Bradford person? You know that it was me. But sounds great, we're looking forward to working with you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Alyssa, for making a long drive down here and.
drive carefully going home.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'd say, so I don't lead with it, I'm on my select board, so I would stay for your whole agenda to see what's cooking here in Sunderland, but not tonight. There's your collection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on, the church restoration, any,
There's nothing new, we're still awaiting the environmental review, and once we get that, then we'll decide how we're gonna move forward.
great.
Well, not us per
Yeah.
se, but, the process.
And how are we doing on ownership?
I don't know, I have not heard anything. I know that the North Shire Community Land Trust is still interested in taking it over, as long as it's not gonna cost $1 million.
Sure,
So,
sure.
But I still have not heard from Merrill or from anybody about that, if the ownership has been cleared.
Okay.
I have a question. How do they plan on paying for upkeep if they actually do?
I don't think they've gotten that far. I think there was some discussion of making a charge for use by certain organizations. Like, for example, if Hill Farm wanted to use the church for a wedding, to have a fee, for that purpose, or, if any other organization that was a for-profit wanted to use it, then there would be probably a fee. Not-for-profits might have to pay a small amount of money just to clean it afterwards, or whatever the case may be. But that there has been no clear-cut discussion about any kind of fee structure or ways to do it, other than the fact that the land trust feels that it has to be self-sustaining.
Okay,
But that's as far as they've gotten in their discussion of it, is that it has to be self-sustaining, but nobody knows what that number will be yet, and how to arrive at it.
Yeah, and then you got parking and
Yep.
a lot of other issues that come with that.
There's no parking on site. The parking would have to be across the street at the cemetery or on the road. There's also no septic, so,
Sounds like a lot of problems.
that would, yep, it's a big question. And North Shore Community Land Trust is willing to undertake that discussion. I was speaking to Seth Bongartz, and he was talking about the possibility of putting a septic in across the street, not the cemetery side, but the other side of that
Yeah.
small road, on that big piece of property that,
Okay.
I don't know if Hill Farm owns that, or,
I'm not
if
sure.
somebody, on that other road owns it, but, I mean, Seth did mention that at some point, and I think he knew who the owner was, and and whether or not it would be accessible. So, there are many questions to be answered, and very few answers at this time.
yeah, okay. Anything else, anybody? All right, Marty, continuing on.
Yep. I've been thinking about, you asked me to come up with a proposal, for how to proceed, and I've been thinking about this, and I keep on getting stuck on who should decide how the decisions are going to be made, and I keep on going back and forth between, should the select board make the decisions about how the money should be spent? Should the select board ask for input and then make the decisions? Or should the community at a public meeting vote, on each proposal? I think the community vote on each proposal is got to be the most awkward, and, will lead to the most strife. My own sense, and I'm leaning towards having a public asking that we have a public meeting and get input, and then the select board, make a decision based on the input they receive. But, I think that's not a decision I should make, it's a decision the five of us should make.
All right, seeing that we just had Alyssa here, it would seem appropriate to me that we could use that community visit to specify, bring up our ideas that were brought up by the public and add to the ideas of the community, and then pick those priorities and use those funds at that point.
That we would pick the priorities, or the community?
No, that the community visit, their job is to take all the ideas and then get a priority, the top 2 or 3 priorities for our town, and then we would move forward to that. And if we could save these funds for that, it might be one, a good way to spend them, because we'd have a lot of community input. I mean, we've had what?
Yeah.
Maybe 20 people?
Maybe.
At
Yeah.
our biggest meetings. And so if we could get 100 people, at this community visit, that's my idea. I don't know, it's something that I think it's a way to get the community involved in this. And we have ideas, and for us just to pick and say, well, no one's coming, so we're going to do these things. If we can get a bunch of people, that was our goal anyway, right?
Yes,
Was
absolutely.
to fill this room up with people and have all their ideas, and then we could go from there. But this community visit sounds like they're gonna do that. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but it seems like
I-
that would be a perfect time to do something like that. Go ahead, Bruce?
I think maybe we should think about doing the mailing of actually the list of how they were, or a real survey as far as, do you want this, or do you want that, and then get accurate numbers and not the, do you think this would be most favorable, or what's least unfavorable? How the other one was, I think more of a defined survey for the townspeople.
Well, if we do that, then we wouldn't necessarily have to have a public meeting, because we'd get the public response.
Well, you'd get a lot more response by mailing them out, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Would that community visit, I mean, that would also give the opportunity for them to come voice their concerns, right? So like if you did the mailing with the survey with the 5 items, but then with the community visit, that kind of does the same. I'm just thinking of like.
Yeah, well, the community visit would do that.
Because that would give them the same, like, they have now the opportunity to do like more direct.
You'd have the same thing as a town meeting where 40 people decide for the whole town.
Okay, I see what you're getting at, okay.
Well, isn't that the nature of participatory democracy? You choose to participate or you choose not to participate. And then, if you choose to leave your decisions to others, then it's just like, if you choose to respond to the mailing,
Yeah, well, then you hear that they weren't notified or didn't know anything about it.
well, it depends on how we announce it. I would prefer direct participation, and let people talk about the ideas, and share their ideas.
But it sounds like that's what this community visit would do for us, and it sounds like
Yeah.
that would be, I don't know, Don?
With those mailings, are they open-ended or are they the same, like in terms of like the questions, like the topics?
It would be pretty much, maybe a yes or no, or something more defined to actually, right to the point. Does the town want to spend money to cover the equipment, or does the town want to put things up for information, yes or no, kind of that.
Yeah. I think there's a way to do both in terms of, with the community visit, you have, it depends, it really depends on what the topics that they want to pursue for the community visit. I agree with, with the initial thing with the town garage and the covering of equipment, that was one of the big items. And so, I do understand, like, if we just now kind of completely discount that and go with the community visit. So I don't know how to balance out what the initial topics were with now just pivoting to the community visit. Like, how do we take care of both?
Well, is it possible that in preparation for the community visit, we submit to the community the list of the potential expenditures? What was recommended, what was suggested, with some sense of what the expenditure might be, in a range, and then say that this is going to be an item, of discussion at the community visit.
I like that.
This way, people know what we're going to be discussing. They have some sense of what the cost might be, and then, they can establish their own priorities.
But also,
But you're actually taking all that time that you spent and restarting the whole thing again.
well, but we're not getting participation. We get
Well,
20 people, that's,
You had a list of the top
Right.
priorities.
right.
Yep.
So, but to be honest, I think we probably shouldn't do anything until the school issue is solved, my personal opinion.
That could be years though, right?
Oh, yeah.
The initial, because I've been going to all the school board meetings, it seems like the next kind of like checkpoint is gonna be February, March, because it's kind of pivoting politically, like they want to determine what the state's doing after once the House and stuff, and the Senate come back in January. They want to see what things are going through the pipeline and what the take is. So nothing for the school in terms of closing. I mean, next year it's gonna be open, but they just keep kind of pushing back
Yeah.
any kind of, yeah, so I mean, in terms of actual closure, it would be at least a year or two if they decided, you know. But as of right now, it's up in the air.
Yeah, I would think if they decided in April or May, you know, to make a decision in one April or May, that, you know, to close the school, it can't happen in a month.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it would be
yeah.
another year's worth of cycle
Yeah.
before, because it takes, I would tell you, knowing how the public school system works,
Yeah.
it'll take like 4 months to even design a transportation model.
Yeah,
You
I think the initial push was a lot of pushback, and I think that helped with delaying stuff, because they saw what the political atmosphere was in the town. So right now, I don't know what the status is gonna be, but yeah, it would, if anything, it'd be a while.
Yeah.
But I understand, I do agree with Bruce though about, you know, there are some big projects, that we could have. So that's just something we have to think about before we kind of pivot to spending stuff.
But our special projects funds are a lot of money, unless you're talking about fixing the school, then it's not much.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's it's gonna require grants or whatever if we take on the school, if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
turned back to us, to turn it into something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, $250,000 or whatever, 200,000 we have left, I mean, but that does help with the upkeep of just maintaining it for 5 years in terms of the heating and all that stuff.
Yeah, but
In terms of renovating it, wouldn't
yeah,
really
it'll
do anything.
it'll
But-
decay around it.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, we're kind of shooting off onto other subjects here, but I mean, I agree with Bruce in terms of, you know, it's something that we do have to think about, and also the initial things with like the town garage and that we did ask for the priorities for that one survey. But I mean, I also at that same point agree that, you know, we do have some special projects funding for the community visit and depending what they
Yeah.
determine. So I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, so I don't wanna like just cancel out stuff, but it's just stuff we have to think about.
You know, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to balance. I mean, some of those things we're talking about, you know, $1,000 for bulletin boards,
Yeah.
you know, for public messaging, you know, and you know, is that gonna be a big topic of discussion? I mean, I don't know, you know, how does that compare to a big discussion, you know, $50,000 or $60,000 to do some recreation kind of facility, you know? And so, you know, do we want to clear out some of the small stuff that we, you know, that we've done already, like, you know, giving money to the cemetery commission, or small items like that? Do we want to clear the deck of all that? And so what's left are big projects, you know, that the community is really going to provide input. Do you think anybody's going to say no, you know, to $1,000 for bulletin boards so they don't have a sign that's 2 feet off the ground? Yeah.
Actually, the one down at the town garage is pretty high level.
Yeah, that one is.
Yeah, well, the one at the transfer station, a piece of paper lasts about a day and a half until it gets rained on and the wind blows it away.
Yeah, but we don't own that.
No, but we have that as a place where we provide public information.
Well, I mean, I do like the idea of, in the notification to a community and this community visit, of saying, these are the items that we have solicited from the townsfolk, and these are the priorities that were weighted, and, but we're still, it should state that we're still interested in input on any other items that might be,
But that process just continues to be open-ended. I think at some point, we have to bring the process to a close and decide how we spend the money. Instead of, saying, well, at the community meeting, community dinner, we're gonna open it up for new ideas. I mean, there's been 3 years of
Yeah.
opportunity for ideas. At some point, you have to call the question.
Well, yeah, we're actually, to be honest, not much farther than we were the day we got it.
Yeah, well, we
had
did, we
this-
cleaned, we got priorities from the town, in terms of general, general categories or, concepts. We actually have a list, of expenditures
Yeah,
that
we-
probably doesn't add up to the $260,000.
We had that before.
Yeah, but we've never done anything. I think at some point, we need to bring the process to fruition. I mean, we could leave the money in there and just keep on drawing 2% interest or whatever we're getting, and never spend it, but that's not our charge.
And then we had the survey and the people pretty much decide or put where they really, the higher number.
Yep,
So,
so we know that, we know what the
All right.
priorities are, and, and I think things are, we can choose to re-rank things based on the priorities and present all that information. But at some point, I think we have to just bite the bullet and decide what we're gonna spend the money on.
I'm just trying to think how we tie all this together so we can deal with both the points in terms of like with the community visit, we make those valid points of this is what's been discussed. These are the initial priorities of the town, and then that goes up on the boards again, and I guess you start the whole, then you just start the whole process over again.
Yeah.
I know you guys have worked really hard on this too, so trying to get what the town feels that we need. It's just,
Well, what if we presented, this is as a result of 3 years of work, and information, these are the ideas that have come to the fore, have risen to the top, and, the recommendation from the select board is to spend X amount of dollars on these things, and we'd like some public comment on the proposal. If we present it as a proposal, then somebody has something to chew on and saying, look, this is the proposal. This is what we plan to do. Let's give us your comments on it. And, if there's a significant difference of opinion, we'll go back and rethink some of it, based on the input. But if people say, oh yeah, I think, that's fine, let's spend that money, we can just move on if we just present it as a proposal. But every time we leave it open-ended,
okay.
we end up still being open-ended.
Yeah, we have been, I understand.
I haven't been in any hurry myself, but especially with the school issue.
Well, I don't know if this money, should be earmarked for the school. Its original purpose was not to, to maintain an empty building.
I think,
You could, yeah, you can assume
definition
it.
of a special project is it's a project that just kind of pops up too. So this was, when we started the process, the school wasn't,
In
currently-
question, right?
So, that's just my concern is like, because again, the school is open-ended, how would that look if we spent a lot of this money and then all of a sudden the town is burdened with whatever the monthly costs are with just maintaining it for 5 years? And then now we have to go fund increasing budgets and, we have the thing with the Orvis building hanging over us, and that's 100,000 plus tax revenue, isn't it? A year. So that's my concern. Like, I would love to spend a lot of this money and do a lot of these projects, but it's just like life when you get a paycheck and next thing you know, your car knows that you got a paycheck and something breaks, you know? So that's just my concern is how do you find that balance of how do we still progress and do all this stuff and do some of these smaller projects, but at the same time being responsible with what the future may hold in terms of liabilities that the town's gonna have to deal with.
You know, the school might not close for 3 years for all we know, or they may close Danby. And we don't, I mean, I doubt it.
No.
My guess is that when they close the school, they're gonna close Sunderland, because Danby's in physically better shape. But do you put money into that do you spend money to heat the building and have it fall apart around the heating system? You know, I don't know, you know.
But that'd be a thing, like the money would, if we did ever come back with that property, that's the money that you would use to now hire somebody to figure out like, what do you do with this building? Is the building worthwhile to be, developed? Is the ground worthwhile to be developed, or is it more gonna be a community thing, cause the ground is so whatever? And you know, that costs money to determine what the real estate people, what's the value of the property and what its uses are. Not so much, you know, obviously, I don't think the building could be just like shut off and then just left to degrade, cause then we have
Well,
another church
I
situation.
mean, we could sell the property.
Yeah, after 5 years though. Cause if you sell it before the 5 years, then the school district gets all that money. So that's the thing with the terms of the transfer and merging document, we would have to maintain that building for 5 years before we could sell it. And that's my concern. Is, you know, what if? But I think that's one of those things we can present to the town, that we want to move forward with some projects, but at the same time, we need to maintain some kind of conservative balance to what if.
Well,
Well,
are there other places where we could get financial support to maintain that building? I mean, can we get any community grants?
I don't know. I mean, we don't own it, so I don't know.
Well, we
I
will own
think,
it.
yeah, I think it would certainly be, maybe a question for BCRC, what kind of grants, because they do a lot of grant writing, you know, what kind of grants might be available to maintain a school that's been closed? I mean, I don't know if they would have any.
You know,
Well, if we
I
had
mean-
some idea about how we're gonna use it, you know, and when you get a grant to, you know, to convert it for a particular use, I don't know, if I was gonna look at grants, I'm not sure I would approve a grant, you know, to maintain an empty building,
yeah.
you know, until we're gonna sell it.
Well, I mean, I think, wouldn't,
you could keep part of it and for like town functions.
I think we would have to define a use for it, not just say, oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna keep an empty
Yeah,
building.
and that costs money though, too,
Right, sure, and then, but then if you say, well, what's gonna be, we're gonna use the gym for community, you know,
Yeah,
access or something.
Get a
or-
grant, we might be able to get a grant if we
That's what-
come up with
Right.
a use, like you know, can it be a community center, can it be a senior citizen,
Right.
you know, facility?
Yeah.
You know, can it be senior citizen and childcare, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, I think just the way forward is, I don't know, to go back to what we initially started discussing with, how do we move forward with spending the money, but then also touching base with what we initially asked people's opinions on. Do we go to the town meeting and say, this is our plan, this is what our intentions are, and we're gonna finalize how we're gonna spend things at the end of the community visit? Or, you know, something like that, like how do we give people, the ones that might not have been reached for the survey, give them ample time, another last chance kind of thing, like ample time, give us your opinion, and then at this point, now we come up with set, non-open-ended, you know, I'm just trying to find, how do you get, you know, we have the community visits, and then we also have the surveys.
We keep on asking the same question,
Yeah,
you know, and if you keep on getting different answers, how do you ever arrive at a decision?
That's true. Yeah. But,
Well, it's for the town, so whatever it is needs to be for the town and everybody in the town, pretty much. So,
The good
Well-
news is we don't have a deadline for the money to spend it, so.
I mean, giving everyone $20 and getting rid of it that way is another way
Yeah,
to do it, but,
I mean, there are certain things on that list that I think are important, like fire department standpipes, with the two bridges.
yeah,
I think that's an important expenditure of money, and most of it is gonna be financed by the state and the feds. So we're getting a lot of bang for that buck. The fire department has been waiting a very long time for an answer as to, are we gonna help them to replace all of their turnout gear, and their air packs?
yeah, but,
Because they don't get it, nobody gives them any money. We give them money for fire protection, but, from what the fire chief said, their gear is some of it is from the 1960s. The
We give
former
them-
fire chief, yeah.
72,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah, but that's for fire protection. That's not,
And that's
to
for-
help them,
That's for operating the fire department.
well, it's to maintain the fire engines, in the building and so on and so forth. But that's, they get very little help from anybody, in terms of, they just have to raise money, for if they're gonna replace all their gear, from what the former fire chief said, it's a real problem. Their gear is really old and they don't have a lot of money to replace it. And that's the gear that can save your life. That's the gear that lets them go into your house when your house is full of smoke.
Well, we give the rescue squad
26.
26, and we give the fire 72. It's almost 73. So,
I mean, I think if we wanted to revisit the list and go through it again at some point, not tonight probably, but it would be beneficial to have, like, the fire guys come back out with whatever their leadership structure is and actually present with facts, figures, all that stuff. I mean, my still kind of thing with the fire is just how much is available with grants and how much are they actively pursuing with grants, in grant writing. But I mean, that's something, if we want to discuss with the fire, it probably behoove all of us to have them come back out and give facts and figures and heart set where we can make decisions.
why wouldn't we just give the ambulance, rescue, and the fire department each so much, and let them do what they want with it? Like
was there an amount for the special projects funds?
What they asking for, like, what was it, about $17,000
that's what I
per
remember.
unit?
But it was open-ended though.
Yeah,
That was the thing.
it was per unit, and
Yeah.
they said, well, we would appreciate anything you can do. 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, whatever you see your way clear, to be able to help us. They didn't ask for a specific amount.
If you gave them each 25, that'd be 50,000, right? So I don't know where we're gonna go.
Well, the rescue's not asking for anything, are they?
They came, before I was on the board, they showed up at maybe the first ARPA meeting asking about funding for a new ambulance. I think that was 2023, and it was like, I remember the figure was like 40,000 or something, but that was the only time I've heard from them.
Yeah.
In that one meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's never come back. I never even heard that mentioned. It was never even part of the list.
Yeah, 'cause, yeah.
40,000,
that was-
you wouldn't get an ambulance. An ambulance has got to be $300,000.
No,
That's just something I remember when I was,
I'm just throwing that out there
Spectator.
because they're protect the community with the ambulance and rescue along with the fire department, so. That's kind of where I was looking at it.
I mean, if I was going to spend money, I'd put it into safety, and health and safety is my biggest priority. These are the guys who risk their lives for nothing.
Yep.
But anyways, we can go on all night with this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just, that was, my thinking, and, and that, I was having difficulty coming up with a proposal as to how we move forward, because each option has an advantage and a disadvantage. I mean,
Yes.
of course, the most efficient is if we do it. The least efficient is to throw it out to the community again and just have hours' worth of discussion, about, I can remember going to a town meeting in Winhall one year where, they spent 45 minutes talking about $5,000, or $5,000 for some donation to something, and they approved a fire truck for $250,000 in about 13 seconds.
Yeah.
You would,
It-
sorry, Marty,
Yeah.
you would actually eliminate that if you had your, say, six priority things and put them down and had yes or no, and then you got back and you'd have how many yeses and how many nos, and it would organize the whole thing, and it would be pretty much no more talking about it. Kind of where I'm at with that.
Well, there's probably, 10 things on that list, 10, 11 things?
I'm just saying, this threw that
It's
number out.
been a while.
Yeah, it's been, but, there's more than 6, and, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but there are some small things on the list, some small dollar amounts that are as important as the big things, but for different reasons. And maybe we want to take it upon ourselves to clear them off, and probably we still would have $250,000 left instead of the $260,000.
I agree with you there. I think we ought to clear out those little, if it's, something. you can post.
3,000 for the hydrants, I think it was, plus the grants.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's an important item for like 14 cents, when you.
Right.
Well, that's, fire protection.
Yeah, it's fire protection, and, it's a different question than $17,000 per unit. Do we want to buy no units, 1 unit, 2 units? We want to spend $3,000, or $1,500 for something else. If we think it's worthwhile spending it, we might as well just make a decision to spend it and let the community talk about the big ticket items.
But we also give them 72,000 a year, and it's got, safety must be first on that list somewhere.
Yeah, but, we'd have to ask them what the $72,000 a year covers. I mean, what does it cover, what doesn't it cover? What's the operating expense versus the income? And let's get a big picture. They may be running at a deficit every year, for all we know.
Well, we're a lot farther than we were before we started talking about this, but it's,
Okay,
I-
so,
I'm in agreement that we ought to clear off the small things that can help the community, and so we're not, that now we have this chunk left, and now we have 4 items or whatever on our list, and present that.
well, I guess I would have to ask, what are the items?
well, we'd have,
Yes,
I
yeah.
could bring it back to you, like, maybe
Next.
if you want to do the first meeting in January? Or do you want to do it on the 23rd?
I would say, I think everything takes so long here, the sooner we get it done, the better.
Well, I could bring the list back.
Yeah, why don't you bring the list next?
I'll send it out to you by email.
Okay.
So you have a chance to look at the whole list again, and then you'll be able to, chew on everything that's on the list and decide what are the things you want to scratch off,
Yeah.
Like the signs, like we took care of
Yeah.
the signs, all that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
When's the
that's,
next meeting?
23rd.
23rd.
Speaking of signs, whatever, is the other 2 up?
No,
And somebody said is a hard spot for the south Route 7 one,
yes.
and maybe we should have looked at that before, but,
Well, there is a spot, but it's on the west side of the road rather than the east side. So it would be on the opposite side, but on that hill right by Red Mountain.
then you'd
Road.
need a 20-foot post on the other side, right?
Well, looking at it being 35 feet off the center line there, it doesn't look feasible anywhere in that I think it's supposed to be the first quarter mile or half mile or something. You're supposed to have the sign, welcome sign, but we couldn't find any place that said, oh yeah, it'll work here. either trees are in the way, or the curve, or the hill, or people's property, but that, on the hill, going up towards Red Mountain Road, there's a big open area there, kind of
Yeah.
grassed-in area, and I think,
I didn't mean to get us sidetracked. but
Yeah.
I
Did you ask
just-
for a variance? For a variance of the 35-foot mark?
we have not, that I know of, and I don't know if the, you know,
It probably wouldn't last because it probably gets taken right out with the snow.
yeah, I mean, there are signs that are closer, but, anyway, I think we need to, keep moving forward here. So I would say if you can bring that list, or send that list out, and we
I
can
will.
at least discuss that next meeting, and I like the idea of getting rid of the smaller things, and either saying, no, we aren't gonna do this, or yes, let's do that now, and clear the list and get it down to a few things that are, we think may be important and cost a little bit more money. And there are also, if it is something like a, you know, covering for our equipment, and it's $300,000 estimate, you know, we can still go for grant money on top of this money if we
Yeah.
need to approve something like that.
But it would be good to have a reasonable ballpark figure, that we have a sense,
Yes.
you know, of what we're asking the community. You know, if we think that $75,000 is not a valid figure anymore, you know, we ought to have some sense of what the figure really is, you know, so that, you know, the community knows what they're talking about. We can, you know, they can they can talk about $75,000, and it comes in at $1.25, you know, and people are gonna say, what happened?
Yeah,
That's true.
Well, if we're gonna go down that road, it'd probably, the first step is to see if it's even feasible of having it and where to have it.
Yeah.
So, that'd be,
all right, so you will send that list out, and
I
we
will.
can discuss that next time. Bruce, road liaison,
Mark was here the last meeting.
he was.
So I don't really have a lot, except Riker actually started today, work, and they're actually doing maintenance. And everything seems to be going well, so,
They continue to do a great job on our roads, that's for sure.
and the salt price did go down, but that was at a meeting prior, I think we talked about that.
Okay,
Would you excuse me for 1 minute?
sure.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Todd?
I actually have nothing new to report for
Okay.
emergency management.
Andrew, do you want to talk about the MERP or the Energy Committee at all?
So having a, next meeting with the committee will be on the 18th of December. I guess, I'm looking at an email here from Jeff, we all got, I guess he's asked Kelly Fishburne of the BCRC for what the next steps are on the MERP thing, and I guess, that, next step, the primary next step would be to pick a project manager or consultant firm to look at the buildings and, you know, kind of get that process started. But beyond that, I don't know how that plays out in terms of, I'm assuming the consulting firms that want to bid on it would send us a bid here to the select board, right? And we would review them and see which ones we like best. And I guess the only caveat there is that since a lot of communities have gotten these grants, there'll be, it'd be, you know, a certain amount of pressure to, I don't know, pick a project manager as quickly as we can, because there's not that many to go around, but that's something I think we can discuss later when we get a better idea of all of that.
All right, Yeah.
I don't have anything else to report.
all right. There's not much to report other than their next solid waste meeting. Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance meeting is coming Wednesday. And BCRC is going to have its January meeting on January 9th here at Sunderland Town Hall, 5:30 to 7 PM. They do serve a light sandwiches, or you want to call it dinner. That's on January 9th. That will be here at our town hall.
I have a question.
Yes,
The dumpster at the dump, did that get changed?
Yes,
yes. It is, we have, they were very happy that we pushed to get that
yes, they,
open dumpster back,
Cully asked me to say thank you to the select board.
which is good. That was good of you, Bruce, to help us push that through. Thank you.
Did you ever figure out, because I was just reading the email chain, access for the building on the 9th for the meeting? I know there was back and forth, like who's gonna let them in.
I am going to let them in.
Okay.
Yes,
I just saw, I saw my name at one point
Yeah.
mentioned, so I wasn't sure.
unless I pass you the key, I'm going to do it. No,
Yeah, just
but-
let me know. I mean, I have a key, but yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, okay. Any other old business?
The Kelly stand, was that, we ever finalize that?
No.
My
It was
opinion-
still up in the air, and I think talking with you, I did have a printout of that letter, but,
If you're gonna do it for a few, he's gonna do it for everyone.
yeah, and I thought our select board decision was that we did not need to authorize that, or to write up special permits for individuals. Isn't that what we?
Right,
Well, we confronted the lawyer about it, and we never heard back from her. But I don't know if we need, I think it's, the state and didn't recommend us doing it,
That's what I remember too, but
or, yeah.
not necessary.
The taxpayers pay to maintain the road.
Yeah. So, there's no action to be taken on that at
I
this point.
think we need to call him and tell him that, something. Because a year later, he's asked, he never heard from us, because I think, I tried to get a hold of, find his brother, but I never got a hold of him.
He did email us, we could,
I think he left a number,
did he leave a number?
yeah.
Would you like to contact him, or would you like
What-
me to do
What are
that?
we gonna tell him?
We're gonna tell him that, the state said that, they
There's-
did not recommend that we
Okay,
issue permits.
you know, when you think about it, they can't use it, with four-wheelers from December 1st to April something.
there's
So,
only a couple weeks on each end they could
yeah, there's
actually do
really,
it.
it's really a very short period of time, and they could use a snowmobile if it was messy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think it costs the town more than it's actually going to, with the lawyer and then yeah.
yeah,
So it's a no.
it's a no.
Do we actually have to,
I think we ought to let him know that we're,
so,
Yeah, you ought to close the loop.
yep, so I'll actually see if I can find that and call him.
okay. Thank you, Bruce, appreciate that.
And that was a previously voted item, right? In terms of the no?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, okay.
All right, any other old business? Under new business, we have, the state has asked us to select or appoint a liaison for Sunderland to the State Ethics Commission. So, from the letter I read, it stated that it needed to be an employee or one of the select board members to be assigned to that State Ethics Commission. Is anybody here to Does
I
anyone
don't
want to
remember
volunteer?
I don't remember what it entails. I mean, the amount of time.
I don't believe it, I don't think,
Maybe we should get a little more information about it.
all right,
What
we
is
will,
the commission supposed to do, or what is its charge?
Yeah, I think we need more info on that.
I don't know, we need to figure out what it is they want us to participate in, and how frequently do we have to, I mean, to travel to Montpelier once a month is a lot.
it's a lot
It's
for us.
It's a lot more, meaningful
Yeah.
commitment than, than being on a Zoom meeting twice a year.
Yeah,
All right, we'll find out for the next meeting what the responsibilities and expectations are for the liaison. And also, Marty has brought up the sexual harassment
Right.
document.
Right, and this is, Bruce and I went through the personnel policy.
Yes.
We made some changes in here. There are obviously some changes that still need to be made. And once we get a final document, Caroline said that she would type it for us as a finished product, because the pagination is all wrong on this and the
Okay.
spacing. I'd like, everybody to go through it, including Susan, and pick up things in here that still need to be changed.
Okay,
And then, once we get a final draft, Caroline would be able to type it for us and put it in finished form, for us to sign. I will, if everybody, would just take a couple of minutes to, at your leisure, to look at the sexual harassment policy and let me know if there are any changes. This is an exact copy of the model policy that the state provides.
okay.
The only thing I've done is I've added
Sunderland.
Sunderland-specific information, just check to make sure it's correct.
Okay.
But I also have discovered, the state requires have a bullying and harassment policy in addition to sexual harassment. Just, regular harassment. So we don't have such a policy. I'll ask Susan if there is another model policy.
Okay,
And if there is, I will, I'll have her send it to me.
Great.
And I'll go through it again and, and
just
see.
attach it to that.
Yes,
Yep.
and if you notice, when you get to the end of this, there's stuff we eliminated, because what we did was, we're having new employees sign that they will have read the personnel policy,
Okay.
they will have read the sexual harassment policy, and they will have read the conflict of interest policy, so we don't have to include it in this document. They're attachments,
okay, yeah,
so it cuts down the, like 4 or 5, 6 pages in this document.
yeah.
And then we have it as a separate document, in hand. We already have a conflict of interest policy that's,
Right.
we just have that. And the sexual harassment is here, and then we'll just clean this one up and be done, and then we'll have to figure out the bullying and harassment part.
Okay,
And you'll email those out? Could you email those?
Yeah, you guys have, I mailed them out
Okay.
either yesterday or today?
Today.
Today,
okay.
yep.
I'll have to look at my email. All right, sounds great. Thank you, Marty.
He's actually taking the town insurance.
He is taking it? Okay.
All right,
Oh, yeah, that is something, one other thing, Bruce just reminded. We have to, I think, make a decision at one point or another. Are we going to have a procedure, a standard procedure for people who don't take the town insurance, and get a stipend instead? We seem to have a mixed practice. So, are we going to create a procedure or a policy where, if you're a full-time employee, the stipend is X, and if you're a part-time employee of more than 24 hours or whatever that number is, the stipend would be Y.
yeah,
I think, we have to decide what we're doing one way or another. I mean, we could say that there is no stipend, but that would be a change in the policy, because,
Was
we've
there
already
one-
offered stipends.
We kind of talked about it costs $11,000 for the insurance for each person in
Yeah.
the town. And then if they didn't take it, maybe a portion, like $3,000.
Yeah, I mean, we could, yeah, that's certainly, that's what most businesses do, is they offer a stipend in lieu of insurance, because it saves
Yeah,
the company
overall,
a
right.
significant amount of money.
All right, well, let's settle this now. Let's have a proposal that, does $3,000 sound like a reasonable number?
Yeah, I would
for-
say 3,000 is reasonable for full-time, and maybe 2,000 for part-timers of more than, I don't know if the number is 24 hours or 32 hours.
Where's the difference of part-time and full-time now?
Well, full-time is 40 hours,
I
but
think
there
that's
are,
gone way down.
there is, I think, there are different things. I think some of them are 24 hours and some of them are 32 hours. I mean, Caroline was talking to me about it, and I can't remember. I think she said 24 hours and 32 hours are benchmarks.
I think 32 is considered
Full-time.
full-time. It
Now
might
it's- yeah,
even be
so-
less.
Yeah, so 24, I think at least 24 hours is considered part-time that may be eligible for some sort of benefits, but we'd have to check to see, exactly what that number is.
Do any of the towns around us offer this, and what amount? That'd be my, because I don't know what's,
Oh, we have that book over there in
yeah,
the drawer.
I don't know what's normal or not.
We can look at that, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll actually have that, but we
Well, I
could
don't know, but,
actually.
if we don't do it, are we just gonna grandfather the people who already have it, and then say from now on, we're not doing it? And we can decide to do whatever we want. But we have been doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
And-
don't know what a reasonable amount is.
And has that been the amount, 3,000 for full-time? And-
somewhere's around there.
Somewhere
I
around
think it's a little less,
2,000,
maybe.
2,500. It depends. I know Susan is getting it, I think. But I don't remember how much she's getting. I think she's getting 2,500 or 3,000.
Then Mark's,
Mark gets it also, right?
yeah.
All
Which
right.
saves, it's saving a lot, because it's
Sure.
11, yeah.
No, I think it's a good idea.
But I guess,
And don't they have to sign something that says they have insurance, or they've been offered insurance, or
yeah, I
something
think
like that?
that's a yearly thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because there are a lot of people who are covered on their spouse's insurance. And you can choose to take, to have two insurances, and then one is a secondary and picks up the difference between what your first one doesn't pay.
I wonder if that's something that needs to be questioned,
What?
if that's done yearly.
Well, it could be just until further notice, that you take the stipend until you specifically request insurance, and then you have to decide, does the insurance kick in the next month? Does it cycle on the anniversary, date of whatever the insurance policy is, or,
Yeah, because they can actually decide they want insurance anytime.
Yeah, but there are sign-up periods,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you have to sign up within a certain window.
All right. I'm fine with a 3, but
Yeah.
however.
I would I would
Can
be
we,
happy with the 3.
let's do two things. One is, Todd suggested, let's find out what other towns do, and let's find out what we are doing here as far as full-time and part-time, the actual numbers, so.
You wouldn't want
I
to
mean-
say 3,000, but then you find out we're offering a different number already.
Right.
and,
Right,
I
that's,
think it's less.
you know,
Very
and
good.
I don't, and maybe we do bump it up, but I'd like to know what we're paying now,
I'll
and
ask Susan.
if there are other towns that do the same thing.
You think, would Susan know that?
She may not, but we could call
Some other
Vermont,
towns,
or Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
yeah.
They would maybe have some guidelines. I could look that up.
contact for Shaftesbury around, isn't there?
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
Which is, Dave would know,
David.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
we could ask him.
Then the next one, we're gonna have to,
All right, we need to approve Bruce to sign the excess weight permit that we have. I think that's, you said it's just one in there?
Yeah.
So do I have a motion that we have Bruce sign the,
Sure, I'll move it.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of Bruce signing that, say aye, please.
Aye.
All right,
And that was the excess weight permit?
yes.
Do we have to start the budget process tonight?
It's for us to look at, and we have an executive session that we need to discuss part of this with in a minute, but,
Yeah, I have a question.
yep.
The animal control officer is getting $225 monthly. How much time does the animal control officer put in? Do we have any sense? I know it's on demand.
It is on demand.
A lot
Is it a lot?
can be.
I mean, I'm not begrudging him the money, even though he doesn't take it, but, we have to leave it in there. At some point, somebody else is gonna be the animal control officer that might take it. I was just curious if, is that
I
a
think we'll
lot
have-
of money, a little bit of money?
I think we're gonna have actually a meeting pretty much for the budget to go over line for line, I
Right.
believe. So it'd probably be.
So I suggest we look at this and have any questions for next meeting. Susan is kind of anxious for
Yeah,
us
I don't blame her.
to move forward on that.
Do you have any sense of what you want to do with the sheriff's department?
I'd go down to an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep it at $35,000.
I would suggest we do that.
Okay,
Do we need to vote on that, or?
well, it just becomes part of the budget. We'll
Yeah.
vote on it as part of the budget.
Anybody else? Thoughts?
I mean, if we're gonna have a meeting discussing budget items, then we should probably hold off on making budget
Yep.
decisions.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, a couple other items on the list here are, there is an appropriation request from PAVE, Project Against Violent Encounters. They are asking for level funding of $150, and there's no petition required because they've done that before. I think, do these items require board approval?
Okay.
I haven't looked at it yet.
Oh, I don't, well, that's,
The appropriations, or does it just go in? I mean,
it just gets attached to the town meeting, right?
right. Yeah, because it's voted on there, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we don't have to vote on that. And the one from the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force, they're asking for $200, and it's for dry hydrants and maintaining water systems to make sure they have enough water, but we don't have any of those. But there was no petition attached to that, and they have not asked for funds before, so I think
Should
we,
we do that one on the meeting, budget meeting?
yes.
Or does it need,
No, I think, yeah, that's good. And there are a few flyers from Vermont League of Cities and Towns. There's a sales tax law update on Wednesday, December 11th. It's a webinar at 10 a.m. to 11:30. That's VLCT. Also, there's advocacy, sorry, yes. Chats, which connects the VLCT's team up with group meetings, and they're on Mondays from 1 to 2 p.m., January 27th, February 10th, and 24th, March 10th, 24th, April 7th, 21st, and May 5th. And you can go online to check that out if you're interested in learning about advocacy chats.
So in
Yes,
answer to your,
easy for you to say.
I think it was Bruce's question or your question. In the month of November, there were 3 warnings and 1 ticket
3 warnings and 1 ticket, okay?
in 35 hours of service.
So they actually have that right on here.
Okay, oh, okay, yeah. And also there is a workplace well-being seminar on Thursday, January 9th at noon today. So I guess we're a little late on that one.
Well, this is December 9th.
There's,
Did you say January?
oh, January, I'm sorry, January. Yes, I did. We're December. So anyway, anybody interested in those? Anybody want these to take home with them?
I'll give you that one.
So I need a motion to go into executive session. Talk about,
I'll make that motion.
okay. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is that on now too? Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second? Second, Bruce, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're out of executive session. We've discussed giving a raise to one of the road crew and like a motion to approve signing this to raise,
I make the motion.
I'll second.
okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor,
You have to specify a motion
Oh.
for $24 an hour.
yeah, to raise Keegan to $24 an hour. Effective next paycheck.
Yep.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, our next business meeting will be December 23rd here at 7 PM. And any other business that anyone needs to discuss? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
This
certainly.
fuel club thing. Quite, somebody's actually took some time to try to figure out.
Right. We just found out that it is available to communities. This is Jeff Dexter that did all this work. And it's, I think, $75 per year to join this fuel club, but the discounts are quite extensive, apparently, for propane, and I think, do they do diesel too? Don't they do diesel?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they do.
I think they do it all, so,
So this should be looked into a little.
yeah, we need to find out exactly what we're paying right now and compare it to the prices that are proposed here. And they're, higher quantities are discounted more, so,
Yeah, and I presume we use a pretty high quantity.
yeah, and well, if you look at the budget, it's not terrible, but it's, does everyone have one of these? I mean, these were all sent out to all of us, but
I didn't
you
get
can
it.
have that?
Yeah. Oh, I think I saw this last time.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
tried to
I think I
hand
saw
them out.
that. Yes, I saw this last time.
Does anyone need a copy?
Do you have one, Andrew? Did you get one last time?
Jeff sent one out.
Yeah, we sent that out to everybody.
That's the fuel club, I don't,
I got that one.
yeah. All right, we can see if we can discuss that. This goes back in the folder. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right,